Okay, it is New Year's Eve here in Sydney, Australia. It's 2 a.m. on 31st December. It's probably the 30th December in other parts. I'm lucky to be joined again by Andre, known as the real Gnejs on Twitch. Um, I always like to say generous compliments at the start. This guy's a legend, basically. We'll leave it at that. We're here for the third session of the Crazyhouse World Championship Grand Final between blitzbullet and Fumitoks. Andre, any opening thoughts?
Well, Fumitoks really put pressure on blitzbullet the last leg, and he clearly won the opening battle. So unless blitzbullet wants any wants Fumitoks to close the gap, he needs to have done his homework because if Fumitoks had capitalized on his opening advantages, he could very well be level with blitzbullet by now. So I hope, for the sake of the match, that Fumitoks will pick up a few points here to start with.
Okay, sure. So let's recap. The current score is heavily in favor of blitzbullet. He won the first session of 20 games, 13.5 to 6.5. Second session, he was leading very strongly as well, up 6-0, as you can see from the left side of this history here. And then Fumitoks came steaming back with 8 in a row, basically won 10 games to 4 in the last 14 games to wrap up 10 all in the second session. So blitzbullet leads 23.5 to 16.5. It is a total of 60 games, so 40 have been played so far. This is day 3, the final day with 20 games left. First player past 30.5 wins. So blitzbullet basically needs 7 victories today to become champion for 2022. And yeah, Fumitoks has to stop him. So let's talk about the game. Knight h4. My queen wants to take it without much thought. Might not
Yeah,
be
I
so.
suppose there's a problem with the C7 square.
Yeah, knight at c7. I don't like as the in-between move. Although a
But,
king d7 to threaten the capture of the knight might
yeah.
deter that.
The
So
opening was very interesting because I don't recall Blitzbullet playing bishop g5. And Fumitox responded very quickly with h6, allowing this pseudo sacrifice, um, which I think gives white a pleasant position. I'm not sure, but
the material appears dead even at the moment.
yeah.
Can we pick off c2 here? Um, I suppose knight takes f5 and bishop takes f5, bishop takes d5, but then maybe pawn at h3. So I suppose still relatively equal overall.
Can you take d5 here, maybe?
Take d5.
Because if
You,
you take my queen, I take your bishop on f5.
I see. That's quite annoying, isn't it? And then bishop takes c6 is also threatened.
Yeah. So I'm
Maybe
not sure
bishop
he
takes d5
saw.
and castle, then I think. Maybe.
Yeah.
Here I think, well, this kind of forces the issue, doesn't it? You can't even play pawn at e6 because of knight takes c2. Um,
So I don't think he saw actually the bishop takes c2 move, but the knight e3 idea is a bit similar because you can easily give up the queen on d1 because you can take on f5 then. And for those who don't play Crazyhouse or Bug House, they might be worried that you lose your queen, but you get so much material and initiative for it.
so this move I don't quite understand. Knight at
No, I don't understand it at
h3.
all.
I mean, maybe pawn at e6 here to defend d5, but black's probably conceded that piece without immediate compensation.
And this is just plain bad for black.
Yeah, I kind of like the queen where queen takes h4 might have gone, um, because black didn't get to eliminate the problem on f5. Um, he's conceding the knight here on d4. Maybe just to get a moment of breathing space to play bishop at f6.
You might even consider taking the bishop. Yeah.
Okay. I think you play g takes here.
Yeah, I suppose you have to because allowing knight c7 isn't looking very good.
Now this is interesting. So black's got two queens, but white's king is so safe, and there's like four minor pieces in white's hand. You say if
Yeah, I
white
wouldn't
gets
want
the
to play.
opportunity, if white gets the opportunity to put them on the board, which he will, there's a residual edge for white here, I would say.
Yeah. And he finds all these nice places for his light pieces. Simply picking up f6
I
and
think
taking a
bishop
rook.
takes f6 is fine. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
just infiltrate with pawns and rooks on the.
it's like we've said before. It's like how many free moves would black need to penetrate white's king?
Yeah,
And,
that's a
and
lot.
even with a lot of moves, like you don't seem to have even enough, you know, material to chisel your way in. So it's
I think white let him off the hook a little bit here, but it's still very good for white.
yeah, I like the bishop takes f6. But, I mean,
Yeah, that was very straightforward.
yeah, you're giving away a bit of material on d6, but yeah, this is quite dangerous. Bishop takes a7 and knight at b5,
Yeah.
because once a queen gets traded off, yeah, this is. It doesn't matter how well you defend, you're just never counter-attacking that fortress on the white king side.
So what's the quickest finish here?
I like um, I was gonna say
Yeah, probably rook.
pawn at b6
Okay.
even, just to hold everything. Okay, he's basically like, I'm putting the queen on and you can't stop me. Yeah.
So very nice win
Okay.
there by blitzbullet.
Nice win from blitzbullet. Okay, we got e4, e5 today. We saw knight g5, so he's avoiding knight g5. He's gone for highly theoretical line d4 here. Um, I don't really even d5 is the theoretical move, and you've got to be really well booked up with either white or black. Um, I don't venture much into this line myself, or I will at least try to deviate at some point, because I just feel everybody's better equipped than I am, because they've looked at the lines. And what
Yeah,
it
there's some
is,
really long and forced lines here. You
yeah, and even
figure that.
then, even then, there's lots of sidelines upon
Yeah.
sidelines. So and it's very unforgiving, is the word I should say. That if you miss a trick, it's not like, oh yeah, I'm a pawn down. Like it's your king or their king. So this is you kind of say, didn't black just give up a pawn, but in fact black gets quite good development and movement from this opening. Pawn at e6 is somewhat a necessity to block off the bishop from f7. Though I feel
This is
like
probably what I would play as white. Just be a bit materialistic.
black was meant to put the knight on h4 though. Um,
Yeah, I don't quite see the compensation here.
and I thought I don't know if pawn at e6 is the most aggressive move. I thought knight at h4 because that's the big play for black. That knight on h4. The play on g2 and f3 is a win. Okay, so this I don't believe is main line because
Yeah, but you can just take the bishop, right?
yeah, I
And
think
there's a
Fumitoks is
huge threat here. I mean that you're threatening mate in one, but also when black takes, let's say black plays now takes c2,
yep,
king moves to d1, and
yep,
then black recaptures on f6.
yep.
There's probably a forced mate with pawn e7,
And
knight
knight at
f5,
f5,
knight d5.
an important trick, right? To use
Yeah.
f5 before d5 because you don't want the bishop on c8 to defend f5. So queen at d4 played first. Queen at d3 very reasonable. Still, would you go for it? And I think Fumitoks doesn't need to be asked twice. Um, even if say knight at f5 doesn't work, you would have something like queen takes d4 and bishop at c5 to pick off that knight, and
Hmm.
like pawn at c2 you can dodge with king e2 later on. It looks good for white.
I mean, here you can play bishop a4, take the knight on c2 if you
Yeah,
want.
bishop at
There's so
a4.
many. It's just,
Okay, so he's gone for bishop at c. I think that's very strong too.
yeah, probably.
Because it's also safely allowing king takes c2, knight at b4 check is no longer a threat. So something like pawn at e2 doesn't worry white. You can just take on c2 with the king. Um, let's
Yeah,
see
now
if
for
that
instance.
happens. Yep, because the bishop on c5 is covering b4 nicely as well. So you just kind of make black look silly. The bishop on c5 is now defending e7. Knight at f8 is something to be worried about. So is knight at e5, knight at f6. This is yeah, this is interesting. If it's very sharp this opening, so even here knight at e5 is probably mating, I think, because
Yeah.
if f takes e6, you go knight at f6 check, king e7, knight at d5, and the queen comes on with check. Let's say king f8, queen at e8, king g7, queen takes h8, king takes h8, rook at g8 is one way that mate could occur. If knight at e5, d takes e5, then knight at f8 looks very convincing because it blocks the rook from defending d8. There could be some, after d takes e5, maybe bishop b5 check is the most precise move order. Just
I
to.
was surprised they didn't pick one of the more forced lines here. Even knight at f8 was interesting. Knight at f8, and then king takes e7, knight f5, knight
I
d5.
would have played knight at f8 there and just picked off the queen and said
Yeah, yeah,
lights out.
absolutely.
But this is also, this should be winning as well.
But Fumitoks let him off the hook so many times.
Yeah, but
So
a win is a win is a win, and I still think
yeah,
Fumitoks will win it in his
he
fashion.
has everything under control here.
Because knight at d5 is coming, like black doesn't have time to take the bishop on c5. Like you may even do something like queen at g5 here, because knight d5 check is so brutal.
Yeah, knight at g8 was also a possibility. Rook takes, knight takes, queen takes, and queen g5. Just
Yeah,
getting the.
I have no problem with how Fumitoks has continued this.
Yeah, he's playing it safe.
It's playing it very aggressively too.
And he has two queens in hand, so
Yeah, he only needs one.
no worries.
One on
Yeah.
f6 will complete the job. So we're 1-all.
So interesting start.
Yeah, Jenna, that's cheeky. So did John just invoke mate by assumption with knight at e5? Well, 50-50. Knight at e5, and I saw enough dangerous checks that were concrete, but to claim it's all the way to mate in 7 or 8, possibly not. I called out as many lines
Also,
as I could.
this assumption can be dangerous. I don't know if you've seen the movie Under Siege 2, legendary movie, Steven Seagal, and
Okay,
where he plays the chef on a boat in the first movie, and then he's on a train in the second movie, and of course they're hit by terrorists, and they think they've killed him, and but apparently they haven't, because all the terrorists get killed one by one.
right.
So one of the terrorists says, "I assumed he was dead," and then his boss says, "Assumption is the mother of all fuck ups," and that suits Crazyhouse as well. Should be careful with
Yeah.
what you assume.
You hear that, GSVC? That's from the legend upstairs, Gnejs. So be careful with what you assume. That's okay. That's GSVC's term. I just borrow it once in a while. Uh, okay, so
Yeah, I remember last year, made by assumption. Well, actually, it's quite useful. You shouldn't spend too much time when it's quite obvious you're mating. You should just play it.
yeah, so here we've sacrificed a pawn on d4, and black's basically trying to make. Well, we've copied moves up until the point where white's played king h1. And then black's basically trying to make a point. Well, you've deviated the wrong way. And now, do you take g2 here or do you back off? What's all right? Well, I would have
I
considered
was
backing
pretty sure
off, but
Fumitoks would take, but
yes,
I'm
I
not sure what I
was.
would have done.
I was also thinking Fumitoks would take, and nothing wrong with that. That's a stylistic thing. Um,
And I have a feeling this is good for black. This is a nice initiative. I wonder, can you play knight e4?
wow, knight e4. What if knight takes g4? Oh no, the queen's hanging, of course. Yep. Uh, Knight e4. Yeah, what if he played knight takes e4, de, and queen takes
Yeah.
e4? You're gonna just trade the house and
But then
oh,
you
bishop at
then you have
d5
a bishop
again.
in hand, so you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
just play bishop d5 then.
yeah.
And that was the point, to do it before you check the king, just
Sure,
to have that
sure.
bishop in hand.
Yeah, maybe there was knight at h6 check, and
Yeah, maybe
to
you're
to
right.
force the bishop off the diagonal. So he's opted to defend g4 with bishop at h3. I think maybe knight e4 still makes sense here.
I thought maybe he should take the rook before he played c5, just to make sure the king takes back. So you have the h1 square for the rook, maybe.
Mm. Yeah, I thought that too. I know the bishop can block g1 to defend on h2, but I was thinking the same, that because a queen on f1 is just so much safer for white.
Yeah, much safer.
Yeah, so this is interesting, right? So it's like a queen trade is imminent here if the d file opens up, and both players have a hole on their fianchetto, but black's now got defense on g7, so that
Yeah, now
favors
f5
him.
was an excellent move. In general, knights are quite poor at defending, but he found a very nice spot for his knight.
So what do? Do you go bishop h6 back to d2? Do you admit you've, got to play passive for a second? Okay, so he's threatening queen at h8 here. That's what this is about.
Yeah, blitzbullet doesn't admit anything. He
So,
just goes forward.
so knight takes g7 here. You just claim your material. I think that's quite reasonable.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Why not?
wouldn't even consume too much time on it. It's the kind of move where I say, well, you found a move I wasn't expecting. I thought I'd be able to trade queens, but I can't. So,
Let's grab the material.
let's grab the material. Yeah. And black's now a pawn up, so no complaints. Oh, can you play h6 here? Okay, bishop at h8.
That I wouldn't have played because that bishop might actually put the king in trouble sometimes.
Hmm.
That just felt very counterintuitive.
So I'm okay with h6 still. The only problem is there will be a knight e takes g6, forcing f takes g6 and knight e6 check. Okay, his bishop's got a life now. It's fine.
So now you can take f7, I suppose,
Mm.
or g4. Yeah, maybe taking g4 was better. But taking f7 was interesting as well, because that bishop was buried on h3.
You planning on going knight e6 check to pick up the
Yeah,
queen?
yeah.
Yeah.
And we're not used to seeing blitzbullet so low on time here.
Still plenty left to play for in this game. Bishop at d8 I
Yeah.
think is sensible. You defend pawn at e7 and knight takes f6 threats.
Wouldn't be surprised if blitzbullet just puts a bishop back on g2. Yeah, just to.
You called it
He likes his
bishop at
castle there.
d6, but I think there's still lots to play for both sides. Knight takes e6. Just I'm liking black now.
Yeah, white needs a pawn on e6. Otherwise, this was just a waste of material.
I would have played pawn at e6 there.
Yeah, why not mend the light squares? Because now you can give up a knight maybe for or just play bishop e4. There are no heavies coming, so he.
Oh, he's gonna allow the queen to be given up, but maybe he's too safe. Wow, king h8.
It doesn't look so safe anymore.
Knight takes e6 is.
I mean, it's not like
There's
black
no
is getting
mate.
any
Knight takes
heavies.
g5 and then. Oh, okay. Bishop takes g3. Yeah, I would have played knight takes g5. Oh, is there mate?
Yeah, because he didn't have a pawn for
Ooh,
the
take
king
with
running.
king running. Okay, it's got too much open space now. No time to take that queen. Yeah.
And blitzbullet has this.
Yeah, but this is one of those critical situations that's hard for the players at the top to determine. So where Fumitoks has said,
Yeah.
well, I'm going to attack first, it may sometimes require patience with pawn at e6 instead of going for pawn at g4, pawn at h3. You kind of It's really hard to balance where you need to respect a prospective attack from your opponent or effectively call their bluff and attack first yourself. So
And blitzbullet didn't like that opening at all in the game before, so he picked something a bit unusual, I suppose.
yeah, we're seeing a mix of openings here. So pawn at d4 I think is fine. Bishop b4.
I would have simply castled instead of playing pawn at d4. Are you
Yeah, but here knight takes e4, you got bishop takes f7, so you recover
yeah,
that material and you throw the king. So I already think white's better by just a little bit because white's not
yeah,
sacrificed
allowing
any material and is you know
this was a bit
so
naive by
yeah.
blitzbullet, just grabbing the e4 pawn without thinking too much, I think.
And there was also bishop at h5, but then you leave knight takes c3 hanging. So I feel it's better to remove e4. I think this was a good way of progressing to maybe knight g5
Pawn
check.
g6 here.
Pawn g6. Bughouse style. I like knight g5 because I don't think the queen can take it because you'll have queen at e7, which will be very
Yeah.
dangerous following. And the queen opening up to g4, I think I like something like knight takes e6, bishop takes e6, pawn at f5, because then you're cutting off the knight's defense on g4, and you're if black wants to play d takes e4, you play f takes e6, and then the hole on f7 is significant. So maybe there's knight takes e6, bishop takes, pawn at f5, queen h4 is something to look at.
I was even
And
thinking
then queen
maybe
takes
queen takes
g4 still.
d4
Yeah,
and
queen takes knight at h6, g takes knight at f6. Like the white king is so much safer there, and the trades are high. Um, ooh,
maybe bishop takes d5 after this.
so straight for queen takes g4. What is he saying that we haven't? Maybe bishop takes g4. He's just gonna play bishop takes d5 check first
Yeah, yeah, that was what I
because
was thinking.
the fork plays. Wow, he declined it, but that's got to be good
I
for white.
mean,
Now knight takes
this has to be
e6.
good.
Yeah, he's just gonna crush him really fast. Knight at
Yeah,
h6, king f8, queen takes e6, and
this
game
is
over.
completely crushing.
Uh, Fumitoks
Too many
just
threats.
smashed down the front door. Yeah, I think black had to take that queen and make white
Pawn
play.
e7.
Yes, there's something more pretty. Like a knight at d7 is also incredibly strong. You force the trade of queens, and queen at e7, queen at f7 are both made threats. Like black has no rook in hand, so knight at h3, king h1 is always going to be safe. Queen
You
takes
can even take the
d5.
knight if you want.
Yeah, that's it. You can't stop queen at
Yeah,
f7.
completely hopeless.
2-all.
So very impressive wins by Fumitoks with the white pieces.
Yeah, when he comes rolling downhill like that, it's is very convincing.
But this makes a lot of sense because he got into some trouble the game before when he allowed pawn at h3.
Yeah.
So here there's no such possibility.
I like that Fumitoks is spending some time here because out of principle, I feel like black should be a little bit better. That white has started a bit passive, and there's nothing wrong with that strategy. That's um, been tried and tested, and I just feel like yeah, this is You've got to try to make something. So is d5 hanging at the end, or
Yeah, that was my
does black get in on
thought.
h3?
Absolutely.
I think.
Why not take d5?
Yeah, knight takes d. So you take it with the knight. Knight takes d5. Knight takes d5. What's your next capture?
I was thinking the queen.
Ah, with the queen. Um. All right. Well, blitzbullet's not even entertaining that. I can see how Fumitoks is thinking here. It's like material doesn't matter. I get pawn h3, I win. Like,
Yeah.
and that's actually correct in a lot of circumstances. So, I didn't see calculation behind e5. I just saw principle play. Like, I'll give up some material, that's fine, but I'll get trades, and I'm gonna push on the light squares. And for the cost of one pawn, that's not a bad way to play for little time spent on the clock.
But this is maybe Blitzbullet's biggest weakness. He sometimes plays some generic moves like the King H1, Knight G1, and then sometimes gets into trouble because the opponent has a deep idea, like Fumitoks here, to put that pawn on H3. And it's
Yeah,
not so easy when you pile up your pieces in the corner like this.
I just feel if you play King H1, Knight G1, you may as well play H3 before you make other
Yeah,
plans. Otherwise, the knight on G1 and the king on H1 are actually impeding your own safety. Um,
this is dangerous.
and I don't think it's a deep idea. I think it's just a logical brute attack.
Yeah.
And I would do the same. Um, so what do you? Wow. Okay. He's basically saying
Yeah, well,
I've
he's
got knight takes h3. I can move my king back to g1.
yeah, that's his idea, and I
But
think it was the only idea.
do you play hg first, or do you ignore it for a move and play bishop takes f6? It can nearly be more dangerous having the bishop in hand ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay. There. All right. So I'm gonna ask who would you take here, white or black?
Well, I'm pretty sure that black is better here because the material is well, white has a lot of pawns,
It's down
but
2 pawns for a piece, which is even.
yeah, I mean, there's no way he'll
I mean,
get the time to put all
I like
those.
queen f5 here. I'm just gonna say. There's no rush to play bishop at h3 for the viewers. You can actually end up chasing white's king back to safety on g1. It's kind
Yeah,
of more like torture to leave white's king on g2. It feels very uncomfortable, I'll say that. Queen f5 here I think is clever because it's the only move on the board where you get your queen off. There's no knight at e7 check. You're threatening the knight with tempo. Any other move like a bishop at c6 runs into pawn at d5. A queen c6 runs into pawn at d5. Whereas
but
queen
there is
f5
maybe bishop c6, pawn d5, bishop takes d5 maybe,
and queen takes.
and pawn f3.
Ah, you're sneaking there.
So
Mm,
maybe that was good as well. But he
well,
picked your move.
maybe is a very polite way to put it. I think it's a very nice idea you came up with there. Um, yeah, that was actually very convincing. Your idea. I
Because the
can't.
thing is, you can pick up one more knight, and then there's another threat like knight f4, h4 with another set of mating ideas. So maybe
Yeah,
bishop c6 was
yeah.
strong.
You've convinced me. Bishop at c6 was stronger than queen f5. Um, but here we are now. F3 has more cover, so he's going back. Okay, clocks here. Um, yeah, he's had to go for safety. So
Yeah, but whenever Fumitoks makes one of those moves, it's a bad sign. I think he was looking at queen takes e4 earlier on when the
yeah,
king was still at g2,
bishop takes
but he didn't
e5
quite.
is the move here. But knight at
Yeah,
f3 check actually. Yeah, knight at d4 is very strong.
yeah, he has, but he doesn't have any diags, so
That's why it's sharp. Like it nearly looks like mate, but isn't. So can he survive this? It looks dangerous for
pawn
black too, but
h7.
pawn h7, king h8. Oh, he's
But
not
now
a
he does
mate.
have it.
Oh,
Oh, he blundered.
oh, blitz
He allowed
bullet.
it.
I think
Mm.
he missed that. Knight f3. Wow,
Yeah, that's very unusual.
Fumitoks with a good. I don't know if you can call it a steal. I just felt that after bishop at h3, white was off the hook a little bit. We're getting the king back to g1. Maybe your bishop at c6 idea was most accurate, pinning that knight and luring white to play pawn at d5. Because there, if white plays pawn at f3, you can trade off that knight, and white has no initiative, and black has all the choices, right? Um,
Yeah.
okay, a3, that's different. Just avoiding bishop b4. A nice idea. It's a bit annoying for black.
Yeah, and that's the problem with this setup for black. It's hard to find any. I mean, sooner or later you need to start pushing your pawns, but then you wasted some time.
Wow, h6. Just castle here and keep developing.
Yeah, and that's the
Unless
thing.
he's
You
looking to
don't.
crack e5 already. But
Yeah, but in general, I think you should just do, as you said, castle, just develop and let black self-destruct.
yeah, that's a fantastic optimistic plan.
Yeah,
I was gonna say similar words, not quite as optimistic as you. I was just gonna say we'll play castle and we'll let the board provide resources for itself. But yeah, black can implode as well. Do you put the knight on f6 to d5 or g4 to d5? I'd play knight e4 here. Ah, he's gone straight for the dark squares. Alright, this fireworks could happen quickly here. There's a lot of trades that can happen fast. How would you crack
but
this
I
one
think
open? Yeah,
I think maybe blitzbullet was is a bit happy here. He got the long diagonal open, and then he
knight
always
back to
has some
c3.
chances.
It's knight back to c3 here, I think.
Yeah, I think you take on f3 then, and maybe on d4. I don't know.
Am I not sneakily mating with a queen f7 sack somewhere? I didn't look
Mm.
deeper, but okay, he's just gone straight for knight at c7. That's perfectly fine.
And probably blitzbullet is figuring out a way to maybe give up his queen.
There isn't a good way really at the moment.
Yeah, maybe you should take on d6 with the bishop just to make sure you can castle.
Or is he thinking of countering already with bishop takes f3? Wow, okay, you called it, but that's giving up a lot of material for
Yeah,
for nothing.
too much, I would
Uh,
say.
do you play knight at e7 check first? What's your order? Well, okay, he agrees. Um, like bishop takes h6 is a natural continuation coming. There's gonna be
Yeah.
there's holes. Knight at g5.
Question is, do you really take the queen or do you just go for the king, as you said?
I would have gone knight at g5 first, just to deny the opportunity for bishop takes f3. Not like this is horrible for white, but it's just this level where you just try to put your opponent away. Even here, bishop takes h6. I think he'll see.
Bishop takes
Yeah,
h6 should probably end the game.
Fumitoks is very good at finishing with this sort of move.
All sorts
Point
of
being,
tricks
if
here.
bishop takes f3, there's knight at f6 check, which you can't take because of queen at g7, and king takes h6 runs into queen at h4 check, pawn at h5, pawn at g5 mate. There are probably other ways where you can just play bishop takes f3, knight at g5 takes, knight takes f7 also works. Yeah, blitzbullet's trying to find a way to cover them all, but you just keep removing the defenders. Here even queen takes g4 is good enough.
Yeah, queen takes g4 is excellent.
Because takes, and then knight at f5 check. If you play king h8, then there is pawn at g7. You can do that this way as well. You just look, white king has safety, black king does not, and queens are in hand, so we'll see this go to 4-2. Yeah, knight takes g4 if you want. There's Seek in a Tangent. Thanks for gifting 5 tier 1 subs. Queen e4 to finish. Fumitoks up 4-2. So we've got a live match here. Blitzbullet still leads 25.5 to 18.5. So he's got a 5-game lead.
And he's allowing this again.
Did he win this
I don't
one?
trust this.
But he won this one. Not necessarily because of the opening, but I mean,
Yeah, he
in a
won.
match, you say, well, I won that line. So knight e5 got played here, and you were suggesting knight e4. Okay, straight for knight at h6. Can't we just take this and play knight at f5? That looks so good
Yeah, it
for
seems very
black.
natural.
You're kind of making white play queen f4. Then maybe you take f3, and after takes, there's like knight h5. Okay, he did it in this order. Just making the queen threat a little more real, saying I've got queen at g2 next move. So the queen goes back to d2. We could take on f3, or you can take on h6 and play bishop at g7 first if you want, just to solidify the king side. He might sack. Yeah, I think he'll sack g7 and play knight at f4.
The problem is that there's a mate on g2 then. It's not so easy to fix that one permanently. It's so dangerous to sack the queen there, I think.
Okay. So tucking the queen nicely on h4, trying to take h3. Maybe bishop takes f1 to start with. Because I feel like the tables have turned here where, Blitz Bullet's normally attacking from safety. It's black that looks like he's closer to the fortress setup here.
Yeah, I was
Um,
looking at d4 here also.
D4.
Uh, yeah, and maybe take the knight on f3 and then continue just taking pawn on e2.
Right.
Maybe take the rook somewhere there in between. But d4 looks annoying.
I mean, black's in the driver's seat here, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You've sacrificed a piece for a pawn and surely got the compensation. I was just thinking bishop takes f1, rook takes f1, and rook at h5, and I'm basically saying you're never coming in on h6, and sure you'll get your bishop back on g2, but I'll have a game where I'm up material and no weaknesses. So d4 is more aggressive, which is keeping that hole on g2. I mean, Black's doesn't need to be concerned about bishop at h6. He can just rinse and repeat, put the bishop back on g7. There's nothing there. So clearly, Blitzbullet wants to undermine the h3.
Maybe take the rook and play rook h6.
Yep, I
And let's
wholeheartedly agree
just
with
start
that.
picking up knights.
Yeah, and
Because I thought it was better to pick up the rook before you took on c3. But
pawn at g4 here is.
yeah, this is obviously very good for black.
Yeah, yeah. Black's now pawn up.
Yeah, and let's say queen h4, knight f5, and white will never get through on the king side.
This is the kind of position where, like, intuitively, I like to try to work out, well, what's my opponent thinking and what are they going to do next? And sometimes when I feel my opponent has such few options, I just let time figure out what they're going to play. I don't try to anticipate because it's just too difficult to find a move for them sometimes.
So he's looking to take on d1 here.
Yep.
I suppose.
Or force the issue where he's saying, well, you take my queen.
Yeah, and now we can take d5 and queen on b1.
Ooh. Look at Gnejs getting fancy here. That's not obvious to see in a game, I feel. But maybe Fumitoks has seen it. There we go. There we go. You, can you
Yeah, you
take
take
the
on
knight
f3, take on
first?
e1.
Oh no, you didn't do it that way. But if rook takes e1, you then can play g takes f3. So
Well,
maybe
plenty of good moves here.
bishop takes f2 first. Oh, he doesn't care. He's just. You gotta watch knight at h6 here, don't you?
Yeah, don't get smothered.
You just play bishop at f6, right? That
Yeah,
puts an end
super
to
safe.
all. So for the viewers, knight at h6 results in queen at h8, or if you move king h8, there's queen at g8 and knight takes f7. Classic counter attack to try to get mate quickly. But it's check here. So let's say rook takes g2. Oh, he took with a king. Surely there's mate.
Yeah, for sure.
G takes
Somewhere.
f3. Yeah. Now he's got h6 covered, you see. So he
Yeah,
can play g
can do
takes
anything he
f3,
wants.
and then queen takes e1 is threatened. So this is a defensive move here. Queen at h3, defending h6. That's very important. So knight at h6 doesn't work anymore, and black can continue rolling in. Alright, knight takes f2, queen g2, queen e2. Alright, just don't run out of time.
Yeah, that would be really, really
Come on, you
sad.
gotta go, you gotta go. Don't need to be precise here, you just need to finish. Okay, it's making us making us worry more than we need to. But he got there. He got there very comfortably.
And
All
4
right.
in a row for Fumitoks.
Yeah,
So
we've
if I would blitzbullet, I would start to get a bit worried here.
yeah. So the lead is diminished to how many games? 4. Am I counting right? Yeah, 20, 25 and a half to 21 and a half. So blitzbullet's still a favorite.
And he hasn't been able to touch Fumitoks with the black pieces, blitzbullet, and he really needs to find some opening that gives him chances.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, blitzbullet's just so strong in middle game and end game. I feel it's their Fumitoks has been in a bit of time trouble twice already, but he actually came away with the wins. Um, Nearly all the time trouble games went against Fumitoks
Yeah.
second session. All right, might just be a slight pause here.
Blitzbullet smashed his keyboard.
No. It's going for d6. I think Fumitoks will
Yeah,
just
why
take
not?
the space here. Um, I've played this plenty myself as black, and you do have to get quite comfortable, with your back against the wall with space. And I think Fumitoks does very well with space. He had a real think about bishop e2 there.
Yeah, so in a way, this is already a success for blitzbullet.
Yeah, maybe I don't know if he's gonna go for h4 because I can feel the way Fumitoks is thinking. Like, all right, how am I gonna like really blow this one open fast? Um, and that's nice to see. Like he's playing purely from move 4. Like he's not
Going for the
just not
throat.
just bashing out moves. He's actually thinking. So an early knight g4, unprovoked. Not a bad move, but kind of why? All right, well, one good knight move deserves another, I guess. I would have kept the knight on f3 a moment longer. Maybe it's just preparing e5. Okay, can he smash and grab this one? Let's see. So
But this isn't easy. I mean, black has plenty of resources to defend with here. And he's gaining time, or rather, white is losing time here.
yeah, I probably find myself more with the black pieces than the white if it comes to this position, and I think black's okay actually.
Yeah, I'm positive he's okay here. I think it's quite annoying to play against this system as white, because you feel that you have a good position, but it's not so hard to. It's not so easy to crack the black defense.
So here I'm looking
And
at a
now,
move like pawn at d4 or pawn at f4, but I think black just ignores it and plays king g8 and says, if you take my
yeah,
knight, I'll take it with the bishop and you're helping me out.
yeah.
Um,
And black finished
uh,
castling, and he's in good shape here.
yeah, he's got 3 defenders on g4. Um, so now back to what you said here. Here as black, you feel like you should have an edge, and then what do? Where can you put a knight? It's not straightforward, right? Um, do you sack on f2 somewhere?
I would like to have a pawn in hand for f4. So maybe
Okay.
maybe c6 just to get a pawn somehow.
Oh, f3 is hanging,
f3
isn't
is
it?
weak here.
So do you go
Yeah, this is good
f4?
for black.
You go f4. H takes g2, king takes g2. I mean, the position's ugly already, so you've got to play some ugly moves.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where the time trouble on the clock, I feel, is going to be really difficult for Fumitoks.
Black has some fantastic piece activity here on the king side. Not so easy to defend this.
Oh, he was trying to put a trick on him somewhere, but
Maybe h3
pawn
or
at h3, then king g1. Uh, there's nothing decisive yet. This one's pretty interesting. Okay, knight at c4. So white probably wants that knight in hand because that's going to be critical for attacking chances. What about like queen g5 here? That's interesting. Oh, okay. He's gonna try to snap him. If knight takes d2, rook takes f8, queen takes f8, rook at g8 check.
yeah,
If king
did he
takes
just
h7,
blunder
he's
here?
got knight at g5. King takes the rook, pawn at h7, king h8, knight at f7 check, winning the queen with check. King up to h7, knight back to g5. I think that's enough for mate because there's a pawn in hand. Um, wow. Yeah, okay. He's having to concede. He's got to defend. So he's got to play. So queen g5, like you've got to get that queen in. You got to get it out of dodge. It's 3 seconds. Oh,
I didn't understand the knight takes c4 move at all. I mean, taking f3 was much more natural, but
okay. Queen
we'll
to
see.
g2 is a threat here. I think he missed bishop at d4. Yeah, he's gonna struggle here.
Yeah, he's
He had blitzbullet on it. I felt just giving that queen on d2 wasn't necessary. Just get the queen out of the way, get it to g5. It's threatening to take g6. Um, yeah, blitzbullet won't let him go from here. Just don't play knight takes h4 and allow rook takes h4 check. Then knight takes g6 check. Uh, yeah, if not knight takes h4, it should be game over. Yep, queen at d2 made in one.
so a great
Yeah,
opening choice by Blitzbullet, I think.
yeah. I think it's one of the more passive choices, but the way Fumitoks played into it, he took some material and he just moved up the board. But he did relinquish that advantage. Fumitoks had him there, I think. With the knight on c4 seemed like it was playing to the wrong side of the board, and
Yeah,
and then there was a tactical opening with f takes g4. I think white just had to preserve the queen, and black had nothing. Once he found bishop at d4 and took the queen, it completely flipped the tables back. So an early knight e5 here. He's
yeah. This is different than
then
what we
king
saw before
h1.
because then he played King H1, and
Yep.
so it's
And I think
very different.
white has the right to play the knight to e5 first. So king h1
Yeah,
has been foregoing some advantage. So queen e8 here is normal for me. Just
but
defend
this is
c6.
more in the style of blitzbullet than it is for Fumitoks, I think.
Oh, free pawn. Did did he just hang b2? Oh, queen c1. Okay, rook takes c2 is still fine. You don't have to play. You can play rook b4 even. Bishop takes. You can put a pawn back on g7. And then the queen has to come back to f4, e3, or d2 to defend the pawn on d4. But okay, there's bishop at f5 here, see, if queen takes c2. So no, there isn't. There isn't a bishop in hand for black. There's only two pawns. Sorry.
Yeah, but
Um,
bishop f5. You could play bishop f5, I suppose. After queen takes.
yeah.
Is he thinking about bishop takes h6? Because that just seems too.
Well, someone is.
Yeah,
I would bishop takes h6 just good for black though. Like
yeah. I didn't
pawn at
like
g7, and now I've kept my rook and the pawn.
the
Thank
rook
you.
is about to take on c3, and
Black's now just a pawn up, and I'm
this was
threatening
too
your knight.
optimistic.
What? Yeah,
He's
well,
being
okay.
very optimistic.
Rook takes c3. I just gobble pieces. You can play knight g8 if you want to be conservative, but I feel, well, okay. Maybe he just wants to hold on to the rook on f8. That's reasonable enough. Bishop at h8, I think he'll play just because he played it before.
Yeah, and this time I think bishop h8 is a good move.
And the idea behind bishop at h8 is like, if you play pawn at g7, white will play pawn at h6 to distract the defender, but you can't distract this defender on h8. So it's kind of annoying for white. You can't play a nothing move. Um, okay, so if you're white here, you're like, well, my king's safe, but how do I stop the bleeding on losing material? There's a knight hanging on c3, there's a knight hanging on e5, the bishop's attacking g4, and white doesn't have much to show for it, really.
No.
Okay, so he's got to try to make something out of nothing. Pawn at e7. You can even play rook g8. Because queen takes e7, maybe knight takes c6 was just at least kicking the queen around for one move. And then you might get knight takes d5 after that, hitting f6. uh, ooh, so pawn at f7's coming, but yeah, I think he's just seen I just take everything. Rook at h6, king g8. You got to be careful.
Yeah,
Um,
you really need to be careful here.
but you can be too careful and lose it. Um, what's wrong with f takes g6? Yeah, here there's knight f8 check. Um, the knight f8 check, king g7. Ooh, pawn at h6. Yuck. Wow. Yeah, I preferred f takes g6 to this. Now
Yeah, this is really, really dangerous.
I mean, black's probably objectively still a bit better. I think you've got time here to play queen takes e7. I just think white got more than he was entitled to.
Yeah.
Yep. So bishop at d2 check, winning the rook, but pawn at g5 locks up the check and the files, and then you've got a really long game ahead still because problem is bishop at d2, pawn g5, bishop takes c3, queen takes f8, and rook at g8 is still annoying. There's still fire
Yeah.
burning.
Can you check on h4 here? Maybe
Rook
rook h4
h4, pawn h5.
because yeah, because obviously king g7 isn't the move. I was thinking maybe you could pile up on the pawn on h5, but no, black has plenty of pieces in hand.
So I guess if bishop takes c3, he's going to say, well, I'm going to start playing on f2. So do you take f8 here? No, okay. Okay, he's trying to counter, but it makes me nervous. Okay, Fumi with the defense. So rook at h6 now. Like, white's got play here.
Yeah, white really has some play
Can you
here.
play f takes g5? It clocks. I think just g takes f6. Yeah, now I'm not as worried as I was before because it's that control of the g file which really gives white some strength. If you could get like a bishop on g8 or something like that. Now it's not there. Okay, there's no counter that's going to happen for black either.
No, those knights, he can't touch the knights. He can't put them on the board because they will kill him if white gets his hand on one knight.
Bishop takes g7 here. Rook takes. Could be a long game from here still. Could be a long game.
I'm thinking
Maybe
maybe,
maybe bishop takes a g6 and then pawn at f7 was quite forceful.
yeah, I was also looking at bishop f8, maybe with the idea queen h8 and then pick up the rooks.
The pawn f2 is not going anywhere. Oh,
Oh,
that's a shame.
just in time. Very interesting game there.
Yeah, I just felt that allowing knight f8 was critical maybe because f takes g6, like rook at h6 check and king g7, and I
Well,
think
obviously,
it's
Fumitoks was winning somewhere, I'm sure.
yeah, and it's hard to play discipline sometimes where you know you've got an edge, but sometimes, particularly with that fortress setup that white has, you've really got to be patient and like take all the material, get yourself rock solid as black, and then say, look, I'm
Yeah.
a couple pieces up here, and I'm just going to grind it out really slowly because when you try to counterattack too quick, sometimes that happens. So aggressive line, bishop c4. I think you can sack on f7 and play pawn at h6. That gets played against me quite often. I'm happy here to castle because um, there's still
I mentioned
aggressive lines.
blitzbullet's weaknesses before, but the last game showcased his one of his great strengths. That's his swindling capabilities.
Mm,
Uh,
absolutely. You can never count him out. And particularly when
no,
there's time trouble in it as well, he puts pressure on the clock too.
this should
So
be fine for black, shouldn't it?
yeah, this is okay. This is a game. So blitzbullet only needs to win 3 more. It's changed a lot those last 2 wins. Um, and so Fumitoks needs to win a lot more than 3. It's it's very much looking like it will go blitzbullet's way. So he's now up 27.5 to 21.5. They're just giving up that knight because he didn't have a choice, I guess. But kind of giving it up with tempo as well. He's put the bishop on d7 first. Maybe he's
Well,
saying, well, I play queen c8 then.
he could maybe played knight takes d4 instead of bishop d7. Maybe get 2 pawns for the piece. I'm not sure.
Did he just get away with it here?
Yeah, this looks like
So your bishop takes e5 and queen takes h6, but I don't think it's much. That queen gets knocked back before. Well, it's got queen takes g6. There's a pin. But now knight takes c4? Or knight at f3?
but now g6 is covered, so
I, I just thought bishop takes e5 was clean.
and this is a huge problem, isn't it? Knight f3.
Yeah, bishop takes e5, bishop takes e5, queen takes h6, and you're threatening queen takes g6. I think that was just fine for white. This, on the other hand, is... And there was a free knight on g4 before,
Take
so...
h3 here, yeah. And he just resigned because the queens were coming off.
No,
And
he missed something there with... Yeah. Allowing knight takes e5 and then also not playing bishop takes e5. There are a couple misses. So blitzbullet now looking like he's in the driver's seat.
yeah, the wind really shifted there. He found his d6 opening with black, so he didn't get crushed all the time. And I think he's quite happy playing this with the white pieces.
Yeah, I feel like if blitzbullet gets h3 in, then I can breathe a bit easier for his king side. But it's when he allows, g4 h3 and black
Yeah.
to get everything he wants, then it's more difficult. So this looks dead even so far. Um, Slow strategic game to follow. Yeah, I don't like the knight on c4, but I didn't really see a better plan
No,
than that, actually. So it
I
was
would have
in my
just
mind
played.
to...
I think I would have moved the bishop back to f4 there because I didn't see what the knight was doing on c4.
I would have played knight h5 here, but there's sacrificial value on losing that knight. Like you get incredible safety with e takes f6. So h3 has pressure. You can't really defend with knight at f4 because of pawn at g5. So how do you defend h3 here? You play g4. Okay.
I suppose g4.
Um, I think bishop takes g4 here actually, and then takes bishop at h3 I assume, and then queen goes to b4, hits the knight, the only piece that's undefended. And then if something like bishop d2, maybe you got pawn at g4. Okay, he's encouraging knight at f3. I think that helps white.
Yeah, you got to put one more piece on the board for
Mm.
free, more or less.
But maybe he wants pawn at g4 to fork the two pieces. That would make tactical sense. So blitz bullet ignoring the knight on c3, looking for a way in on h6 and f6. Perfectly reasonable. And even if pawn at g5, you can take it with the bishop or with the knight. So would you consider knight at f5 here? All right, that's more a move akin to what I would play. Queen takes g4. But that's very reasonable. I mean, that really makes it harder for white to attack. You gotta take that, right? You gotta call
What
bluffs.
is the idea here for what? If black
Well,
takes on e5,
you sack a minor piece on e5 or h6, but I don't think either of them are that promising. I just rip off
no,
e5 without thinking here.
yeah, that e5 pawn drop just seems like a bluff. I have to call the
But maybe
bluff.
that's what I mean. I think that's principled from blitzbullet. He's basically saying, look, I've only got a queen in hand and a pawn, and black's got a whole army on the side. If I don't make an attack happen soon, I'm not going to have anything. And
Yeah.
this is the only play. So I guess bishop takes, maybe pawn at g5 is a move. Bishop back to g7. He would play knight takes
Yeah,
d5,
maybe he
and
picks up d5 here somewhere along the line
yeah,
and gets a couple of more pawns.
then it doesn't look all too bluffy now. C takes d5. I think you got to make white play.
Yeah, and white needs to go with the flow here because black has so many pawns and pieces waiting in line, and if he white will allow them to get on the board, he won't stand a chance. I think so. He needs to go for this.
Yeah. This is hard to defend. So I would play
Yeah, this
bishop
happens to you.
g7. Yeah, I would have played bishop g7 and then threaten a repetition. Um, like just keep rinsing and repeating bishops.
This
Um,
happens to me all the time when I play against the computer. I win a lot of material, and then he starts this very bluffy attack and just mates me.
yeah, bishop takes f5. So yeah, that was the principle behind pawn at e5, that white just has to go really fast. And you would take white now, wouldn't you?
I would take white and crush easily, I think. So many threats. He can just pick up the rook on f8. And black is way. It doesn't have an attack coming anytime soon, black. So easy to play white.
Yeah, but what could you
And
have done different? Like pawn at e5. Like, can you really decline that and play pawn at e7? And like maybe you've got a threat and a draw somewhere in there to hold the line. Okay, blitz bullet now at 29 and a half, so he's one victory away from taking the championship here. Um, Fumitoks would need to win the next 9 out of 9. He won 8 out of 8 the other day.
yeah, but now I have a feeling because Fumitoks shifted openings here. He gave respect to the d6 fianchetto setup.
Yeah, in a way, I feel that should be something that Fumitoks can play well to with space. So it's just the execution didn't go quite quite according to plan on a few games. So here the
So
idea is
white
bishop takes
takes on.
c7, and then
Yeah.
queen takes c7, knight takes c7. There's a bishop at a5 check where black gets to recover two minor pieces for a pawn and a queen, and that's actually, I think, better for black just by a little bit. So
Yeah, in practical play, it's really hard for white to come up with a decent plan in a position like that.
yeah, so yeah, bishop g3 is fine here, I think. Black never wants to take g3 while the white rook is still on h1. You're just helping your opponent. I'm okay with backing off to e2, bishop e2, because you're potentially threatening bishop takes h5 in the future. If bishop f5, you can play rook c1. There's no rush. So I would say, for example, like plan to get knight e5 in, push the black knight back to f6, and only when that's happened, maybe consider castling, and no earlier than that. Okay, it's castle
I
queenside.
don't like this decision at all. That king will get in trouble quickly, I think.
um, yeah, I didn't agree with it wholeheartedly either, but I don't think it's the worst thing.
But I wasn't sure about c5 though. Maybe it was a bit premature to play c5.
If not c5, what are you thinking? b5?
Yeah, maybe.
I feel c5 needs to have d4 follow within the next two moves. So
Yeah.
um, I'm questioning c5 now that you go dark square and then you play a light square move. Um, like even pawn at d4 here. To what? Bishop e5. So bishop takes f3. Bishop takes g7. Bishop takes d1.
Yeah, that looks good for black.
It's just a fine tactical point that there's two captures there, f3 and d1. Maybe you're taking f8 after that. So maybe the trades are even after all, and it's playable. I guess he's trying to make the point that the black knight on h5 is misplaced. Okay, if e5 there was knight takes d5. I'm okay with white here. I will take white because white's got a material advantage. There's now e6, f7 are potential holes if you can distract the bishop from g4.
And let's say e5 maybe. But here e6 is weak.
I like knight at e6,
Yeah.
and I just feel the bishop on g7 is black's best defender. Let's get rid of it. Oh wow, he gave up.
But this I don't understand.
You gotta take that on a2. Yeah, black has no problems at home now.
None whatsoever.
Where I was going with knight at e6 wasn't anything super direct. It was just, undermining black with taking off the best defender with not much risk back at home.
I think Black might have missed the chance there. We could have played Queen E4 instead. Just
Ooh,
picked up
yeah,
the rook.
Queen E4 was. Yep, I missed that. That moment has passed. So you still take black
Still
here.
very good, but yeah, I'll
Materials
simply knight.
materials balanced and
There's just no way of getting
oh,
out of the mating threats
we're
here for white, I
we're
think.
about to crown a new champion here, I think. Okay,
Just
so
take the
you
rook.
take the rook. All right, I would have taken the rook.
Yeah, for sure. That's the free rook.
Uh, I think he'll be just fine here too. So knight takes d1, rook at c1, bishop at b1. Okay, we're going this way. Knight at b3 is coming in. Yeah, very elegant mate here. Knight at b3, king a2, knight c1, king a1, and queen at a2 check the sack. It didn't matter if you played knight takes a2 or bishop a2, there was a mate. But blitzbullet, he takes 5 wins in a row, and he wins the championship there. Um, Up to the players, it looks like they may elect to stop here. That's certainly an option for them as well. There are 8 games that can be played as what's the term? Dead rubbers, I think they call it. So congratulations to Blitzbullet. Placed second in the candidate stage, but very convincing in the first session against Fumitoks, winning 13.5 to 6.5. That's where it all began, and 10 all, and then he's taken this one 7-5 already. He'll take home.
Great finish there also. In the last 5 games, he played some really strong
Yeah,
Crazyhouse.
yeah, and he's always been a very strong contender in the candidate stage each year. Finishes, you know, easily in the top half. So a deserving champion. Congratulations to Blitzbullet. He'll take home 400 US and Fumitoks 200 US for the prize money. Um, and so, yeah, with that, I got a bit of an announcement to make myself. I'll be electing to actually step back from Crazyhouse for a little while. I'll be taking an extended break. Just got some, demands in life currently. It may not be a surprise to some of you because I haven't been streaming as often this year. And the last few years, being an organizer with Crazy House World Championship, I've just tried to, um, you know, show that as a community we can, establish a nice tournament and, have some continuity there. So we've got a lot of helpers in the background here. An entire sleeve just donated $50 as my yearly donation. That's very kind. Um, yeah, so I just wanted to say there's a lot of help in the background running this tournament and a lot of depth in our community. I'm grateful for all the support we've had. Um, I mean, you and I spoke off camera, Andre, about
Yeah.
you know Bughouse days on freechess.org where we had a relatively toxic community, but it's quite different here now today with the Crazy House community. Um, and so yeah, I hope that the good traditions and the good attitudes continue, and I hope that there will be better improvements that come along. Um, and I just want to say there's no kind of negative event that's triggered this. There's just a lot happening, and it is a bit of a cyclic thing for us players where we kind of come and go from the game. So it's maybe goodbye for a little while, but not farewell. So a question from chat, yeah, is it permanent, Jan, or you will be back? Um, I have said years ago, like I've quit permanently and I've come back. And my commentator here today has probably said similar things that we've quit forever, long time, and whether it's months, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, or 20 years, the game seems to draw us back sometime. Um, yeah, I've just said a whole lot of words, but Andre, open to hear if, any comments you have on your experience with the game. Uh,
Yeah, well, obviously we will miss you in the Crazyhouse community, and I just want to thank you for everything you've done for promoting Crazyhouse. I played a little bit of Crazyhouse way back in the days, but it wasn't that big. They implemented it just before I started playing Bughouse. And now that I'm old and slow, I just love the game because I don't need to move the pieces 2 or 3 times a second. So it's a great game, and I love the community also.
yeah,
Uh,
I think Yasser one, who you all know, has said it best that he felt the community has been very welcoming. And he's one of our best chess ambassadors, so we've been very lucky to have his support. Unfortunately, he's traveling at this time, so we didn't have him on the commentary team. Um, but yeah, I do want to see that this year's event is wrapped up properly. So I think we have just a couple of candidate stage matches to go. Mugwort had some life circumstances that held up his last two games, and then we'll distribute the funds appropriately. But yeah, to be clear, I'll yeah not be so much involved with organising or being a guarantor of funds, or may not be playing too much even for some time. So really appreciate all the support from the community in recent years. It's so strong now that that the game has a momentum of its own. So it'll be fantastic, I think, for the future of the game. Um, on that note, um, anything more before the new year, Andre? We're about to have celebrations
yeah, I
go
just
around the
hope
world.
the next year will be a little bit better. We have a war going on here in Europe. I didn't think we will see that again, but I'm sure the Crazyhouse year will be fantastic at least, even without you.
I've no
Thank you
doubts.
so much. Thank you so much for having me here. It was great watching these games together with you. I learned a lot just watching and listening to your comments also.
All right, and thank you for joining. Like this would have been a teenager's dream come true from year 2000 or so. So yeah, it's been wonderful to have you as a guest.
Yeah,
Okay,
for me, it's an old man's dream to sit here with a former world champion commenting on a world championship match. So
it's
we're
been
both
fun.
getting our dreams come true here.
Yeah, that's it. Well, hopefully we do get to meet in person one day. We've not done that yet, so
I
on
hope
live
so.
camera is good, but hopefully that does happen. All right. I will be posting this on YouTube. I have been behind on my YouTube posts, but I've scheduled them probably about 4 or 5 videos to be released 24 hours apart from each other in the next 4 or 5 days. So that's a bit of a gift to start the new year. If you haven't caught those on YouTube yet, um, Happy New Year to everyone. And just look after each other and be courteous. Enjoy the game, and you know, make it bigger and better. That's going to be my closing words. All right, we'll leave it there.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Okay, take care, everyone.
Bye bye.
Cheers. Bye.